Well, hello, and welcome to today's taping of the 4 and 3 podcast. This story didn't make it on today, Trey, because I just saw it. And I mean, it makes me think it's April 1st, this story here. I've got to... I mean, this is an actual headline. I mean, can you believe that? If you're new to this, by the way, this is the taping of the 4 and 3 podcast, which you can find on faithwire.com/podcasts. Four big stories of the day, all from a Christian perspective. We break them down for you. This is the taping of that podcast, and we haven't started taping yet. We'll tape in a minute here. But this one is this is actually in the Washington Post. Perspective. Yes, kink belongs at pride parades, and I want my kids to see it.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, are they just trying to see how far they can go? I don't know. I don't understand. Thankfully, that tweet is getting ratioed.
Sometimes I think it's just.
I mean, what do you say? What is left to say at this point? I mean, it's just like, hi, we'd like to sexually abuse children, and we're proud of it. Like, what are you talking about? I can't even imagine that. Yeah. Rank and file LGBT activists are even on board with that. It's insane. But it's in the Washington Post.
I think there have to be like some people in the media or like activist type people who it seems like they just want to poke the bear all the time, right? Like they actually like they have to know it's insane, and they're just kind of like, let's see how angry we can make the conservatives. And I'm just going to sit back and say, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to, whatever. I'm not going to be outraged. I'm going to tell you that you're dumb, but I'm not going to be outraged by it.
The hashtag is kink positivity. I mean, I don't know.
You have to laugh to keep from crying.
You do. Let's head into the slightly less insane stories, but maybe we'll have that one later. I don't know. I don't know if I have the intestinal fortitude to cover that story and point. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. Some days I don't know. But here we go. Let's
Nevertheless,
get into the big stories of the day. Let's tackle that here in just a second. Here we go. Podcast starting in 3, 2, 1.
Faithwire.com.
Hello and welcome to 4 and 3, a podcast breaking down 4 of the most important stories of the day and 3 things you need to know about them, all from a Christian perspective. It's Wednesday. I want to welcome in the regular listeners from the CBN News Daily Rundown. We've joined forces with them, and we'll be joining you all each Wednesday. And the 4 and 3 podcast will be featured on the Daily Rundown. So glad everyone from the Rundown is here. And today is Wednesday, June 30th, 2021. I'm Dan Andros. Coming up on the podcast today, an Olympic qualifier, Sydney McLaughlin praises God in selfless victory speech. An Iowa Aquatic Center is allowing a biological female who claims to be male to walk around topless. An update on the cop who was placed on leave for praying. And Disney World has gone super woke, even more so than usual, with a gender-neutral greeting that you have to hear. We'll have all that and more coming up with Trey Goins-Phillips from Faithwire.com. Trey, what's going on?
Well, I couldn't have timed this better. I know for people who are listening to the podcast, they won't know, but people who are watching the stream right now, I'm wearing a Disney, a Disney World themed T-shirt today, so that's nice. The Disney fan in me, this is just like, it's upsetting. It's very upsetting.
We have a video of it. So if you're watching on the stream, you'll see it. I'll try to get the audio up of it as well, so that you can hear it while we're rolling that tape. But it's and it's like a classic thing that's just, I think they've been doing for forever, right? I mean, the way they've been announcing it before the fireworks show there at the castle. So
they've done it since the park began. So this is a big shift.
Oh my goodness! Congratulations for ruining that. So all right, well, not you, the people who complained. So whoever did. So
right, yeah.
All right, let's dive right into story number 1, and here we have an Olympic U.S. track and field trials that were on Sunday. Sydney McLaughlin broke the world record in the women's 400-meter hurdles, and she gave God all the glory. So check out a clip from that.
Sydney, you're looking at yourself in disbelief. Just take us back to the moment crossing the line and seeing that world record time.
All the glory to God. Honestly, this season, just working with my new coach and just my new support system, is truly just faith and trusting the process, and I couldn't ask for anything more, and truly it is just all a gift from God.
Yeah, and she went on from there to mention her faith a couple times and on posts on social media afterwards. She's just 21 years old, and she just smashed the world record, hit 51.9 seconds for the 400-meter hurdles. And that's the first woman to actually go below 52 seconds. And she beat defending Olympic champion Delilah. Gosh, I'm really butchering that name. I'm sorry, because it looks like Delilah, but it's not Delilah. Maybe it's Delilah. I don't know. I can't pronounce anything, but I think it's Delilah Muhammad's previous time of 52.16. So but bottom line here, if you're looking for someone to cheer for in the coming Olympics, check out her response here further from that soundbite, and I think you'll have found someone. She said, the biggest difference this year is my faith, trusting God and trusting that process and knowing that he's in control of everything. As long as I put the hard work in, he's going to carry me through, and I really cannot do anything more but give the glory to him at this point. And then on Monday, she continued to direct the focus on God while reflecting on her victory. She said, I just kept hearing God say, just focus on me. It was the best race plan I could have ever assembled, she put on Instagram. She said, I no longer run for self-recognition, but to reflect his perfect will that is already set in stone. I don't deserve anything, but by grace through faith, Jesus has given me everything. Records come and go. The glory of God is eternal. Thank you, Father. That's awesome. Well put. So not really a left-right issue here, Trey, though we did see the contrast. Her statements afterwards really contrasted versus what we saw yesterday with the hammer thrower, Gwen Berry, who was, protesting the anthem and upset. Really quite interesting to see that difference between someone who's angry, saying they're pressed, bitter, versus someone who's at peace. And she said that she was having a bad week as far as practice and stuff, but she said she just kept praying and God just kept giving her peace. And she just said, that's what allowed me to run free, was just I trusted God and just said, whatever your will is, let it be done. So she was able to run well because of it. So amazing to see that difference there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's important too, I think, like when there's so much to be frustrated with and there's, like we've talked about before, it's just this like constant outrage machine. Yeah. So it's important to highlight these kind of stories. And I know that's what we try to do at Faithwire and at CBN News, is highlighting these good news stories, because there is a lot happening and it's easy to get kind of bogged down with the negative stuff. But it's also interesting to see, again, as Christians, we know this, but to see it lived out, like someone who is a believer and who is trusting in a greater plan and a creator who lives and operates outside of us. It's cool to see her humility and her perspective shape how she talks about this Olympic journey. Whereas when there's, you're kind of devoid of that faith and you're devoid of that purpose, it seems like there's either a lot of sadness in a person or a lot of anger and frustration, because I guess they're searching and looking for an identity, and they're finding it in a lot of the wrong places. So it's sad for me to see, like we've talked about the other Olympians who have been, I can't remember her name, but Gwen Berry, her story about like being angry that the national anthem was playing. Like, how can you be at this place and just be angry? Like you're so accomplished and like you're so young, and you've achieved so much at your young age. It's like, so it's cool to see this athlete and her perspective, McLaughlin's perspective. So it's certainly something to highlight, and it's worth celebrating, and just, good for her, not only for being so successful athletically, but also having such a positive and humble perspective too.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So, all right, story number 2. So this is actually similar to the story we did yesterday about the spa, but it's in the other direction. So a public school or public pool complex in Pella, Iowa, reportedly allowed a teenage biological female who identifies as a transgender male, to walk around the facility topless and use the men's and boys' locker rooms topless as well. So according to the Iowa Standard, a local outlet, the incident took place on June 16th, and two people familiar with the situation said that the aquatic center's policies allow it. So an assistant manager for the center confirmed that, telling the outlet anyone can wear the clothing necessary in line with their gender identity rather than their biological sex. So the rules were put in place by the city council. Some residents, though, were not really happy with the pool's policy. So one person, a local resident, said when brought to the facility's attention, they explained that there was nothing they could do, which is an odd comment, as if like these policies exist outside of them. Like they have these rules have a life of their own. We can't do anything about them. But anyway, the resident went on to say that state laws protect this biological female, allowing her to walk around indecently exposing herself to all the families enjoying the facility. The facility is afraid if they act and require her to cover herself that they will face legal backlash. The critic went on to call the policy appalling, saying that if someone were to take a picture, and this is a good point, it wouldn't be viewed as some boy at the pool in swim shorts. It would be a topless photo of a biological female, and it would be child pornography. So really, this local resident is kind of looking out for this girl. Like, if you separate it from the context of what she's claiming, this is, potentially child pornography, like she said. So I think that's the real concern. And we've talked about that before, Dan. It's like these ideologies on sexuality and transgenderism are kind of upsetting enough when they're in the abstract. But when we see the concrete consequences, like with this story and the biological male from the story yesterday walking around naked in the women's locker room in an LA spa, it becomes really clear why this stuff is so problematic. Yeah. It's like right in your face why this is an issue. And it places children, and mostly women, biological women, in really dangerous situations and potentially traumatic situations. So what's the left saying? We know the right-left breakdown here. The left is more in favor of this kind of stuff because it's all about quote-unquote inclusivity. And what's the right saying? Well, the right and a lot of Christians have consistently pointed out that these ideologies are not at all inclusive, but are trampling on biological women's rights and endangering children and discriminating against people who, like us, hold to a biblical and even just a biological understanding of sex. So why does it matter? I think the issue is not going anywhere. It's just going to become more of an issue. And, as Christians, Dan, I think we have to make it a priority to speak clearly and compassionately on these issues. And I know I've talked about compassionately, but part of speaking compassionately means standing up for the people these policies are hurting, specifically the ones who it's hurting like immediately and directly. And that's actually biological women and then kids, because, kids are being exposed to this. Both the spa and at the aquatic center. And parents of all political ideologies, to me, should be able to set aside their opinions and say, if it's endangering our kids, we need to do something about it.
Yeah, you'd think that, but we've talked about moral relativism a lot, and the slippery slope argument is real when it comes to some of these views, particularly on the secular progressive side of things, because if you start following it to the logical conclusion, there's no backstop there. There's no logical backstop. When you have an ultimate standard, when you have God who lays out his values in the Bible, then what happens there is you have a backstop. You have something that will say, hey, no, we can't do that. Here's why. But the other side has there's no gate. There's no, you'll look at it logically and say, oh, well, yeah, I guess if we allow that, and sure, then allow that. I do think, you're seeing the thing we talked about in the pre-show about, celebrate the kink and all this stuff, and let's show it to our kids. Logically, you're going to have people who start realizing that inconsistency and saying, well, yeah, why should we stop any of this stuff? It's all good. If that's the way you're born that way, then go for it. And I think that's a dangerous road to go down. And I think we're starting to see that play out in little instances here at these spas, and it's like testing the waters almost.
Yeah, and it really is weird to me that the city council members would say, well, we can't really do anything about it. This person identifies as transgender. This is the policy we have in place. It's like Yeah, because these things, like I said, they don't exist outside of you. It's not like these rules have their own
Yeah.
life and are,
Right.
are separate and you just have to take care of them.
Yeah.
But it does go back to that. I think it is just cowardice. They're afraid to stand up for what they know is right. And the sad thing is that everybody in the room knows it's wrong.
Yeah.
And there's nobody who's willing, or at least nobody who has power, who's
Yeah.
willing to say, enough is enough and we're changing this. Instead, they're leaving it to these parents to stand up and kind of have to bear the brunt of the backlash. But at least we have people who are brave enough to do that. I'm thankful for them, and hopefully they'll be listened to, because I think ultimately, particularly when kids are involved, at least the optimist in me likes to think that I think the majority of parents, not necessarily the people in power, not the city council members, not the politicians, but the majority of everyday parents, regardless of their politics, I think are going to be the way that we turn the tide on this stuff.
Yeah, hope so. Hope so. And time will tell. And you just need, like you said, more people need to stand up there, because fear of the mob is going to just let this stuff continue to have its day. And you can see the danger that it presents to our kids and to society, really, when you start going down this road. So, all right, let's head into story number 3. And it's a Kentucky police officer who was placed on leave after he spent a morning praying outside of a Louisville abortion clinic. And now he's going back to work. This was back in February. The officer, who is unnamed, had joined his father to go pray at a women's surgical center. And the decision to suspend the officer for 4 months came after someone tweeted a photo. And we've got that tweet up there on the stream if you're watching it there. And it showed a photo of the officer at the clinic where he was in uniform, but wearing a jacket. He was off duty at the time. He wasn't on his shift. But obviously you can see the car in the picture there. Attorneys with the Thomas More Society, which is representing the officer, said their client prayed alone with his father for less than an hour. It is astounding to those of us defending him, shocking actually, that the police department would treat a hardworking, loyal officer this way. They left him twisting in the wind for 4 months because of an off-duty prayer. LMPD sent the cop notes explaining how his actions, quote, prayer on his personal time, those were his actions, might have violated the department's standard operating procedures as well as state regulations. Attorneys for the officer have submitted an open records request to the department because they want to confirm that LMPD extended no similar disciplinary actions against any off-duty, ununiformed officers who marched in Black Lives Matter protests or participated in LGBT pride rallies. So assuming they believe that some had participated but yet received no sort of discipline. So shouldn't be a right-left issue here, Trey. Though someone found it offensive enough or enough of a violation to send in this tweet picture of the officer praying to try to get him in trouble. Thankfully, he has been reinstated, though he did lose a significant amount of income and obviously hardship while being suspended. Obviously, this reeks of a double standard, one that we've talked about many times, Trey, when it comes to the different protests that are going on, where we've seen certain political actions and speech seem to have more of a favored status than others.
Yeah, and it's upsetting that people are willing, like whether it's the police department or whoever, are willing to kind of sacrifice a person and their livelihood and their family's stability, all for some sort of political win, like a victory of some kind. Because he's a father of young children. He and his wife are parents of young children, and he's the primary breadwinner for the family. So that was income. He was paid, but it was significantly decreased from his normal pay, his normal salary. But it's as if, for 4 months, the police department didn't care because it was about some sort of, I don't know, kowtowing to some sort of political victory because there was 1 or 2 people who complained on social media. And we've seen that with so many other things, like Abigail Shrier. This was a while ago now. I think it was sometime last spring. Abigail Shrier, she's an author of a book talking about the transgender movement, critical of the transgender movement. well, there was one person who tweeted about it, and because of that, literally one tweet that didn't even get much traction, Target completely removed her book from their online bookstore. They eventually reinstated it for a little while, but literally one tweet got it pulled down. So it's just all it takes is one single solitary post on social media. It's like this mob that's, even if it's a minority, because they're so loud and because they get so much attention from our media, and they've been put on a pedestal by our media, world, the media industry, they're listened to no matter what they say or no matter how nonsensical their complaints are.
Yeah, and it would be great if these companies would start to have a backbone again. I remember when the standard used to be back in the day that when anybody got all fired up about something, whether it was on the right or on the left, the companies, for the most part, unless it was something actually egregious, they would ignore it and just say, it's just going to be noise. And getting involved in this or kowtowing or supporting whatever it is, whether they agree with it or not, was just not good business, because you were automatically going to hack off 50% of your potential customer base. And so, but we seem to have lost that. And companies now are thinking, well, we need to dive right on in and let's just celebrate this so that these people aren't mad at us. It's a terrible way to go, because you'll never make everyone happy. Never. It's better just to stay above the fray, focus on your product, and do the best you can with it. Now, if you really feel passionately about an issue and it's actually something that your company believes in, that you really want to promote, then great, go ahead, do it. Lots of companies do it, but a lot of it just feels like pandering and trying to be, to get mob insurance so that you don't get hit by the woke mob.
Yeah, it's a weird shift we've seen in our culture, because it's not just companies, it's also like singers and actors who are now super political activists. But I remember when I was younger, and there's still a few, like particularly country music seems to be like the standout, because I know Reba and Dolly Parton, for example, have said this, but most artists back, years ago used to say, well, we're apolitical. Like, I don't get involved in all that stuff because I don't want that to color how people see me when they see me on the screen, like portraying a character. I want to be that character. I don't want them to be upset or be like, really invested in me politically, because my job as an actor, my job is to take you away from reality. So that used to be, and that similarly, artists would say like, well, I want to bring in as many people as I can, bring in as many fans as I can, and obviously make as much money as I can. So when I become super political, that cuts off an audience. So to me, it just has never really made sense. Like, why would a corporation like ostracize that many people by taking such bold political stances? Because it's not like just like light and fluffy political stuff anymore. It's like these corporations going like full woke or something on all these different issues, and it's like they're going like whole hog on this stuff.
I will believe that they are not pandering to progressive leftist activists the minute I see pro-life pandering from these same companies. When Coca-Cola says every life matters and they put up a picture of an ultrasound, then I'll believe they actually care about what people think. Right now, it's just clear that the left has favored status in culture and with the elites in media and Hollywood, and so they think that that's the safest way to go. Otherwise, you would see things like, I don't know, life in the womb that's being slaughtered and that's being celebrated. You'd see people standing up against that injustice, but of course they won't. Because it's not politically safe. But I digress.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna say that it's never gonna happen, but it's gonna be a while, Dan. Before I think before that happens,
it's gonna be sometime.
But it is possible. It is possible. So, all right, story number 4. So this is actually a pretty brand new update that I saw right before we started taping. So Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, which I was just there a couple weeks ago, they have decided to remove their iconic greeting from the fireworks display in Magic Kingdom. It's literally, as I remember as a little kid going and hearing this, it's long predated me. Jack Wagner, he was known as the voice of Disney, so he used to do this announcement. It was live when it first started. They've been doing it literally since the park began. They started the show by saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dreamers of all ages." And Dan, do you have the audio?
Yeah, we can roll the audio.
So here's the before, what it used to be and what it is now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dreamers of all ages. In just a few minutes, the Magic Kingdom invites you to enjoy our nighttime spectacular, Happily Ever After.
Okay, so that was the old one, and here comes the new one.
Good evening, dreamers of all ages. In just a few minutes, the Magic Kingdom invites you to enjoy our nighttime spectacular, Happily Ever After.
So there it was. It was gone.
Yeah, so now they've cut off the entire first part. Now it's just dreamers of all ages, which is so frustrating. Like I said earlier, I'm a huge Disney fan. I remember growing up and going to Magic Kingdom, and still when I hear that initial, like, ladies and gentlemen, it still, like, gives me goosebumps sometimes because I'm nostalgic, and I remember, like, oh, so exciting as a little kid, like, sitting on my dad's shoulders and whatever. So anyway, but I digress there. So the audio is actually from last night when Disney cast members were given a preview of the fireworks show that officially returns tomorrow night to all the parks. So that is a bit exciting. They're finally returning to the fireworks. So that's cool. But Disney World's decision to rework the greeting is in the name of inclusivity, of course, and it comes after Tokyo Disneyland removed the iconic greeting for the same reason. So the decision there was made not by Disney, but by the Oriental Land Company, which licenses the Disney brand and its characters for a theme park. In March, when the change was made, a spokesperson for the company said that the greeting was changed to "Hello, everyone," in order to make people of all gender and sexual identities, quote, feel comfortable in the park. The spokesperson said, it's a comprehensive judgment considering the current social situation, such as diversity. So what's the left saying? Well, for the left, this is pretty much towing the line. I don't know that anybody has specifically commented on Disney's decision at Magic Kingdom yet, but this is definitely a result of leftist ideology on sexuality and gender identity and all that. So it's the right saying. Conservatives and Christians have opposed this kind of stuff. We've talked about this the last couple of days on the podcast, and they've argued that it ends up hurting and not helping people, particularly women and kids. So why does it matter? It's just disappointing, honestly, but it does matter when we see these kinds of things happening, because I think, Dan, because I don't want to live in outrage and I don't want to be angry all the time. Yeah. Like, it's you separate these things out, and your inclination is to say, well, it's just this one little thing, and it's not that big of a deal. And I do get that, because nobody should live angry and outraged all the time. It is, though, important, I think, to understand that this kind of stuff is happening. We need to call attention to it in an appropriate way, because these little incidents lead to big cultural shifts, which is what we're seeing now. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Yeah. It's kind of like we've taken all these little incremental steps, and along the way for the last several years we thought, well, that's not that big of a deal. This isn't that big of a deal, and then we end up to a place where a teenage girl is walking around topless because she identifies as a male.
We're like, what happened?
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the boiling frog, right? Like, you put them in the water.
Yeah.
You don't put them in the boiling water. You put them in the water, mild, and then you slowly turn up the temperature, and they don't realize they're boiling to death. It's pretty much what we're going through right now. What I wanted, the progression here is what's going to happen, because the idea is, by saying ladies and gentlemen, you're being exclusive, and you're taking out someone who thinks they're not a lady or a gentleman. It seems like a very
non-binary
small crowd.
people.
Oh my goodness! So you're pandering to this
which has to be like 5 people.
I mean, come on. But what happens then when? I don't know. I feel like you're going to have to just continue. If you keep trying to pander to every single little tiny group of people and make your language just so basic, you're just not going to be able to say anything. You're not going to be, hello. No. Everyone in existence. Hi. Oh, wait, that excludes people who don't think they really exist and that this is just all a dream. Okay. Hello. What else can you say? We're just going to just leave it at that.
Like, what if somebody says, like a really convicted pessimist comes in to the theme park and it says, welcome to dreamers of all ages. Dreamers, yeah. I don't identify as a dreamer. I've never had a dream. Suggest that I dream.
I've never had a dream, and I've never even thought of doing anything. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I've never had a dream. I just thought I was going to be a failure my entire life. Now I feel excluded. Hello.
Yes.
beings that are
Hello,
in
you.
existence and find themselves in this particular geographic location at this particular time. Enjoy or don't enjoy, whatever your preferences are. I mean, it's just absurd. And people just need to grow a spine and a backbone for the love of everything. Just get over it. If you can't deal with someone saying, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, that's a you problem. That's not an us problem.
Yeah.
That's a you problem. I'm sorry. I'm a generous guy here, but I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, China, all these any country that wants to invade us must be licking their chops like, wow, this is going to be easy. All we have to do is say, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to defeat you. And they'll be like, oh, darn it, I can't do it. I'm scared and afraid because they didn't include me in my category. It's it's all ridiculous, and hopefully sanity rules the day at some point, Trey. I mean, I keep waiting for that pendulum to swing back. I feel like it's gone very much in the woke direction. Kind of hoping it comes back to some sense of normalcy here at some point, but time will tell.
I like to think that it will. I like to think that it will at some point. And in the meantime, you know, I'm still going to be a fan of Disney. You know, it's just as upsetting as this is. I love Disney too much. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the family member who you love them so much, but it's like, why are you doing that? That's real dumb. But I still love you. So I don't know. Hopefully Disney, and more than Disney, again, Disney is just an example. Hopefully the culture will turn because that's really what this is about.
I'm hanging on hope with Disney because there's that one Christian we interviewed. I forget his name, but we talked about that one animator that they've got there. I think you did that.
And you're a Mandalorian fan too.
Yeah, I know. And they're trying very hard to shake me, but I'm hanging on for now. But all right, that's all the time we have for today. God bless you. Check out cbnnews.com and faithwire.com for more news from a Christian perspective. We'll be back here, Lord willing, tomorrow. God bless. Wow, it was a little ranty McGee there at the end. I mean, you can't hear this stuff. I don't know how you can hear this stuff and just not shake your head. I mean, they've taken the goodwill. The woke mobs have taken the goodwill of people who just want to be nice. Hey, you know what? I want to respect other people, right? Regardless of what they believe. If they believe different from me, I want to be a respectful person and shine the light of Christ well on others. They're making it difficult, Trey. I mean, they're making it difficult. I can't say hello, ladies and gentlemen, to a crowd. I mean, come on.
Yeah. It's just, to me, it's just, you do have to just kind of shake your head because it's so silly. Like, it's just, are we really at that point that saying, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is an offensive thing? And here's the thing. I don't think it actually is offensive to hardly anyone. Like, no. I think the vast majority of people, including the majority of people who are gay or lesbian, transgender, whatever, I don't think they care. In fact, a transgender person, don't they want to be identified as the gentleman or lady they identify as?
They're still one of the two. There's still one of the two.
I think it's we're pandering to such a small group, like literally the non-binary people who are at a park or whatever. It's got to be in the single digits.
It's got to be in
for
the
the
single
most
digits.
part.
But then you have like the Washington Post here, you know, saying, you know, keep kink in pride for our kids. And it's like, at what point are my sensibilities considered something to be considered? You know, at what point are they like, hey, wait a minute, someone might think it's really offensive that we can't just say ladies and gentlemen. Someone out there might be like, wow, that's a bad idea. I really think it just speaks to, and there's by kowtowing to this stuff and by bending to this stuff, Trey, they are setting up a more insufferable existence where now the other side's going to have to feel like they got to say something. And so now they're going to be yelling at everything. And so you're just going to have this back and forth, and it's going to be whoever the companies fear the most is harming their bottom line the most is then who will win, which, as we said before, it shouldn't be that way. They should just be staying out of all of it. If someone complains, let them complain. Let them complain. I mean, it's just, You're not harming anyone. I'm sorry, but you're not harming anyone by saying ladies and gentlemen. You're just not. Okay?
Yeah.
There's zero harm being done. I know some non-binary person out there is going to say it's harmful or something, but just grow up, grow a spine, and, get a little bit of a thicker skin there and learn how to deal with some things in life that maybe you don't like. Again, this is a sign to me that America is the most blessed nation in the history of the planet when these are the things we spend our time and energy on. I've been to Iraq before where the power goes out every 5 minutes just because their power grid doesn't work. And then you're not sure if it was a bomb or an attack or something, or if the power is just going out. Nobody over there is like, oh, man, you didn't greet me in a non-binary friendly way. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Enjoy your freedom here and be thankful. Be grateful. Okay?
Yeah. I think
is that so hard?
There are so many like actual issues going on, which you mentioned. Like there's so many real problems that we're facing, and there's already reason to be uncomfortable. Like there's already things that are difficult right now, whether it's because of racial tension, even whatever it is, or political differences. So people are already uncomfortable when they're in groups at the moment, and because of the pandemic, so they're already kind of uncomfortable. And then you're going to add this additional layer, like you're going to make people walk on eggshells. Like nothing is enjoyable about being in society if you're going to go fully down this road. Whereas like I can't be comfortable assuming that this is a guy or that this is a woman I'm talking to. Like, so the most basic thing about humanity, I can't really relate to anybody on anything. We need to be able to relate to one another, whether it's over ethnicity or over political affiliation or over religious beliefs or something as basic as, oh, you're another guy or you're another girl. Like we should be able to relate to one another that way. And when we go fully woke on this stuff, it ends up just isolating all of us. Like I can't really relate to my fellow human beings anymore on any level. And what kind of existence is that? It's miserable.
No, it is miserable. And I think we're going to be I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to learn the lesson the hard way. I think we're just going to keep going down this road and it's going to get worse and worse until finally everyone's like, okay, enough is enough. That I'm wondering what the line is because I feel like we crossed it about 100 times, but it still doesn't seem to stop. So I guess we'll find out when we get there. But until that time comes, we're just along for the ride. There we go. All right. And with that, we shall bid a fond farewell here, and we'll see you all back here tomorrow. So God bless. Thanks for being here.